All right, partner, we're back and early. See, every time we do these shows, and I'm gaining a little currency with him because we've started one show like almost 2 minutes behind. So I think I'm kind of like making up for it now, right?
Yeah, I'm still butthurt over that, but that's fine. That's okay.
Okay.
I live by the clock, my
friend.
What a week.
What a week. It just continues to be insane. All right, let's get right into it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start off today, just a general conversation about the president's health.
Or lack thereof.
I'm not his doctor. I don't have the records here. I'm just seeing what the public is seeing visually on all networks.
Okay.
When he speaks, when he walks with his family, when he climbs stairs, when he rides bicycles, when he goes to a podium. It's just time and time again. And I can't blame it on the news because it's, the news, I mean, there's a narrative. Of course, there's a verbal narrative behind it all, but ultimately the video doesn't lie. He is feeble.
Yes.
Right. And cognitively at times, it doesn't look like he's, for lack of a better phrase, with it.
I mean, that is the phrase. I mean, well, you're right. And that's, again, I don't know how anybody could look at him. And again, you don't want to say anything bad about anybody or wish harm on anybody, but it's like, he's not there. Let's just be real. Like, he's the leader of the free world.
Right.
Like, I think you want somebody that has a little bit better health to be in that position. That's the scary part, because sometimes you don't know what he's going to say. There are many times where I've watched him speak, I'm like, I don't know what's going to come out of his mouth next.
Well, I worry about, it's bad enough in public, but I worry about what's happening again behind closed doors with the other leaders of nations.
I mean, I've seen videos of him sleeping.
I'm sure he's coached, and I'm sure that, and I think too, and I don't know how diplomacy works at that level. I'm guessing that the country's position going into a meeting may have already been conveyed a week or days earlier to the other side, and maybe when they're actually there, there's no real conversation. It's more like optics.
Yeah, but again, I if that's the case, then that's bullshit in my mind, because we need a president, regardless of the political party, to be a strong character, to represent our country, right? America, we are supposedly the strongest nation on the planet. Yet we have someone who, again, is feeble, like trips going up steps, like has had more blunders,
continually
physical blunders in his presidency than any president ever. I mean, let's be honest. Like, you
just
don't
look at the way he walks,
right? And again, it's very it's fragile. It's when you see an older person's kind of lost a step, and they're unsure of their footing. That's how I look at him when he walks. He's unsure of his footing. So if you're unsure of your physical footing, how can you be sure of your mental footing? You can't.
So let's talk for a second, an estimation of what you see the coming election to be. Is there going to be someone waiting in the wings? You think he's actually going to be the nominee for the Democratic Party?
No, there's, in my opinion, that's a guaranteed loss.
Well, they better step up to the plate. I mean, the party leaders got to figure it out. I mean, time is running out.
I agree with that. I can't, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not a political strategist, but I can't imagine the Democrats putting him up as the nominee. I mean, he's how old now? 80 something? Like, would he last 4 years? Like, I don't know. I can't imagine them putting up, if they truly want to win and affect change in this nation, he is not the one to do it. He served a purpose. He was the not Trump candidate. He served his purpose. Now, if they truly want to either retain power or make, fundamental changes, he is not the man to do that, in my opinion.
Well, I think the argument is that he's made all kinds of fundamental changes, and that he's. I mean,
a lot of them are getting shot down. When you think about it, like, he keeps getting punched in the face.
There is, but when you look at some, yes, the party right now is saying that he is the most successful legislative president ever.
Compared to what?
I'm just telling you what they say. What that's the Democratic Party's position right now, that he has gotten more legislation, he has affected more positive change in our country than any president ever.
I have affected the most positive change as any lawyer ever. Who can verify it? Like that's what I'm saying. Like,
of course, it's
they just throw these things out, and there's no way to verify it. Like, what does that mean?
Well, he is definitely,
he doesn't write legislation.
He has carried the torch for the far left progressive wing of his party. He has he they have his ear. There's been
Of
no
course.
doubt about
Yes,
that.
of
Yeah,
course,
no
yes.
question. So
He used to be more moderate.
and these are definitely he was more moderate.
Yeah,
At
absolutely.
time, in years prior, his policies generally were that way.
Yeah.
But I it's an issue, and it's going to continue to be an issue. And the shame of it is, it's going to be nasty if he is the nominee. It's going to get nasty in this
Yes.
next election, regardless
Yes.
of who the Republican ends up being. It's going to get nasty, and it's going to be over age. And what I hope is that the American public can realize, don't vote for the person out of pity. Like
Right.
we're a very emotional people. Well, I'm going to vote for that gentleman because he doesn't deserve to have his age called out. Well, he might not. No one deserves cruelty,
Correct.
but at the same time, it's an issue,
Correct.
and it's being brought out primarily because it's very visible.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to the argument that, oh, this is off limits. When you choose to insert yourself into the public eye, running for president, meaning you are exposing your entire life and family and lifestyle to the public. You are saying, country, vet me. Make sure I'm the best person for the job. You can't pull like the bullshit like Hunter Biden, like, oh, we shouldn't be talking about his family. No. You're the president of the country. You chose, no one said you have to be this. You chose to put yourself in the public eye. So yes, health should be an issue. Age should be an issue. Like we have to make, as a country, we have to make the determination, the best candidate for the future of this country. So everything's a factor in my mind.
100%.
Influence, age, health, everything. You can't separate them. And that's what I get so frustrated with. We try and say, that's off limits, this is off limits. No, when you choose, if I chose to go in that life, I would understand I'm putting my family, everything about me on the table. Like that's just the nature of public life.
All right, let's go. Let's stay on that Biden.
Yeah.
That Biden topic in regards to Hunter. Obviously, it doesn't go away, and it seems to be expanding.
Yes.
House Leader McCarthy even has expanded it. Now he's floating the idea that there might be an impeachment of Joe Biden for the misconduct of the president and his family.
Yeah.
I think it kind of centers around the lie that there wasn't any business dealings with Hunter, and then ultimately what those business dealings and where those payments of $5 million
Yes.
were. I think that's the crux of it.
Yeah.
The rest of the stuff is window dressing, the drugs and the hookers and all that. That's window dressing. I think the issue is the money, right?
Mm-hmm. But yes, the money, but also, I mean, I was watching one of the hearings that he was paying for hookers out of his company, Hunter Biden, like business expenses. He was writing off, paying for escorts.
But that wouldn't directly reflect on the president.
I don't
that
know.
issue.
Not that issue, but if somehow he's related to the company. I mean, how does a senator become this multi-gazillionaire, right? We know he bribed people. The Ukraine already says they have tapes. Like no matter what the left can try and hush it or kick it under the rug. There's too much now. It's at first it's like, oh, this is just bullshit Russian hoax. Okay, now there's so much stuff, and you have IRS whistleblowers coming out, and there's just too many things pointing back at the president. Influence peddling, like at a certain point in time, we have to hold people accountable, regardless of the party. They're doing it to Trump. You should justice for all.
100%. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Right.
My point is, when is there going to be, because I believe it's going to happen.
Sure.
Who is it going to be, and when is it going to happen? The first Democratic senator, not just House Representative, the first Democratic senator that comes out and admits that there is something there and it's disturbing and there's issues. Because I think that's kind of, if they're going to actually truly try to hold the family, but hold the president accountable for what happens, or try to unwind this, the first thing that should happen, correct me if I'm wrong, it should be a special counsel. That won't happen because his AG won't do that.
Correct.
Right. And and of course, half the country is going to say if he does, then it's going to be a wink job anyways. Right. But nothing's going to take place until members of his own party say that this can't be ignored or covered up or pushed aside or whatever. Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's one problem, maybe two. The one problem I see is that the Democratic machine is so strong, stronger than the Republican machine, I believe. It's so strong that for someone to do that, they would basically have to say, I'm okay being detached from this machine for the rest of my political career.
You think it'd be a career ender?
It would be not a career ender. It would be a career shifter. Like, I don't think it would end the person's career. I think they'll get support other places, but I think it would end their path in the Democratic Party. Because you're going against everything.
I mean, look at Joe Manchin right now. There's a serious threat that he's going to go third party run.
Yeah.
I think there was some thought a while back that he may join the Republican Party. I don't think, from what I'm reading, that's going to happen. But I think I think there isn't a third party candidate that if you sit them down and ask them their heart of hearts, really would think they have a chance to win. No. But if they want to burn it all down,
they can.
They can.
Right.
And that's a powerful spotlight.
Yeah, and the problem is the whole two-party system, right?
No doubt.
I mean, because we should be voting on issues, not on party lines, right? There are many things I feel strongly about that are on the Republican side. There are things that I'm like, okay, on the Democrats. Like, I don't, I'm good with that too. Like, but I can't, there's no candidate that supports both. So I have to take the lesser of two evils, right? When I vote, I have to vote because there's no perfect candidate. I have to vote the lesser of two evils. And that's the problem with our system.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. We'll just stay on the political side of this since we're already knee deep in this bullshit.
We can always get knee deep in
this. I just want to touch on the continued Russia-Ukrainian war that, it seems like the American public has war fatigue again.
Yes, we definitely do.
And depending on what news service you watch, you get a hint that, oh, well, this side's winning, and the other news service says, no, this side's winning. And from day to day, it changes in terms of what we're being told.
Yep.
And the longer it goes, the sympathy, I believe, the sympathy for the Ukrainian position is going to wane. And I'm not even making assumptions there's going to be big discoveries on either side. I'm just saying the longer this goes, the more money that the American people continually hear they're giving.
Lots of money.
And, and again, if you tie the idea of supporting Ukraine, which I personally believe is the right thing, that's just me personally. But if you tie the idea that the problems of the Biden family business dealings with Hunter and Joe and Joe's brother, I believe, are Ukrainian based.
Yeah. Well, and again,
so the implication is not, the optics are not good.
No, and there's so many things. Like if you really spend a lot of time trying to dig into this, and again, I've done a little bit of just reading and watching, trying to understand. But one of the issues they were saying, well, the war in Ukraine is affecting wheat prices here in the U.S. because the wheat supply in Ukraine, it's all about money. Like when you think about it, like all this is doing is controlling money. And, with the media, we don't know if the media is telling us the truth or not. Like I've seen videos where the media is showing one thing, but people are actually there on the ground showing a video of what's going on, and there's nothing happening. There's no air raid sirens. There's no bombings. There's nothing. Like I don't know. There's too much uncertainty to understand, and there's too many things that are happening right now that all kind of roll up to the people in power across the globe when it comes to money and what's happening. And that's why there is this level of uncertainty. No one knows what the fuck is going on. I don't think anybody can intelligently articulate what is.
No, well, how's the average citizen, us included, supposed to understand it?
We don't. It's whatever the media tells us. Now we have to deduce our own conclusion from that. And how are we supposed to do that?
I don't know. So CNN, this is just from the last couple of days. They apparently went in and they sat for 30 minutes in a drugstore in San Francisco, and they, on camera, recorded 3 shoplifters in 30 minutes with really no pushback from the store itself. And they made the proclamation that, oh, we have a real shoplifting problem. And it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah,
I don't know how many more years they wanted to wait to get it, or start maybe projecting that to their quote unquote news fan base.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
but is the tide going to change at some point, and we realize we need law and order in this country again?
I hope so. If not, we're going down a slippery slope. Like. There were stores, like I'll give you an example. I remember this is a couple months ago. Employees from Lululemon got fired because they tried to stop a shoplifter. Like, think about what I just said. You got fired because you tried to stop someone from committing a crime, and that's a good Samaritan award, in my opinion. They got fired. Like, yes, like we need to get back to law and order. Yes, there are fundamental problems in every system, right? And we talk about the problems with this, the problems with that. But still, for a society to function, as people peacefully, you need a level of law and order to be the guardrails of society. And in certain segments of this country, the guardrails are gone. People just do what the fuck they want, and there's no consequences for it. Like, how can we live like that?
I don't know, because we're afraid of offending people by arresting them. That's exactly what it is.
The fact that that's even a statement,
even the implication that we might offend somebody for arresting them.
If you commit a crime, you should be arrested. I'm sorry. Like, if I commit a crime, arrest me. If you commit a crime, arrest me. That's just what law and order is. We have laws in place to say in a civil society, this is right and this is wrong. And guess what? People say, well, who decides that? The people that were voted into power. If you don't like the rules, vote new people into power. Like, that's because people always say, well, who decides the rules? Who decides this? Who makes the laws? It's the people the populace voted for. They make the laws. So if you don't like it and you want fundamental change, you have to change the people in power.
What about just being a better human being?
Well, that's what it should boil down to. Like, yes,
I mean, be
a good human being. Correct. Yes. Yes, just be.
And when you do, don't ask for a medal. When you do obey the law, don't ask for a medal. It's what you're supposed to do.
That's like one of the best Chris Rock skits of all time. He talks about, like, he was talking to people saying, like, I never been to jail. And he's like, what the fuck do you want, a cookie? You're not supposed to go to jail. Like, it's like shit like that. It's like, we should just be good human beings. Like, fundamental
and
things
shouldn't
we're taught
be a lot to ask of our fellow citizens. It really shouldn't.
Like, life would be so much easier, and this world would be such a better place if we just looked at each other and smiled and said hello and have a nice day and nice to see you and thank you and please and you're welcome. Simple pleasantries would solve probably 90% of the world's fucking problems.
Yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
I mean, I'm just glad to CNN's on the bandwagon of showing, now maybe if they go down to the border, maybe no, never mind. Yeah. We won't go there. So the UPS strike was avoided. The Teamsters and the UPS Corporation came to a settlement, I think, just in time.
Yeah.
I think the ink's still wet.
Yes,
I believe.
Correct.
But I mean, it could have done some significant damage to the economy had that gone on. Or let me ask you, would FedEx and DHL and third-party companies just absorb the business, the post office?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I tend to think there are certain things the post office will do that no one else can do, right? Like certain certified mail, certain things, like for legal process service, right?
Right.
I don't think they would absorb it. I think it would have got worked out. Like I wasn't too concerned about this strike happening. They were going to get what they wanted. It was going to get worked out, because I just think that would just cause a screeching halt to certain segments of the economy. Not all of the segments, but certain segments. And I think there's just it had too big of an impact for it to come to a halt. So
before the real proliferation of Amazon, if you wind it back, when the web started from 96 through like 2004 or 5, FedEx and UPS, and to a lesser extent USPS, they carried everything. They handled all of the commerce.
Yeah.
So at that moment in time, before the Amazon delivery, Amazon's proliferation, but they're in incorporating delivery.
Yeah.
The effect would have been a lot more damaging, I think, back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Than it would be now with Amazon doing so much.
Because they have so many independent drivers. Well,
right?
They're independent drivers, right? So these people that set up they drive around the Amazon Blue vans.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily Amazon employees. They're independent business owners. They start a business. They, work through Amazon. They buy the equipment. They buy the trucks, the vans, and they're independent business owners.
I didn't know that. I thought they were employees.
No, they're independent business owners. They may have some that are employees. The majority of them are independent business owners.
I did not know that.
Or they work for someone that's the independent business owner.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Because, think about it. Like I sat here and thought about, okay, 80% of the things I order are through Amazon. Like packages I get at my house, 80% of them come in an Amazon Blue van.
Right.
Post office, UPS, FedEx, unless it's specialty items that aren't sold on Amazon. That's it.
No, I get it. See, I Amazon or UPS hires a lot of employees. I can imagine that would not have been the best for the economy if they had
definitely not.
A prolonged strike. Jason Aldean.
Yeah.
Got to talk about it, right? That's all we do.
Right,
here.
yeah.
First off, I listened to the song. I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's a rock song. I know I'm a rock guy, and I know that's supposed to be country. I don't know that it's all blurred now.
It's country rock, is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some really heavy guitar in there.
Yeah.
I really like the song.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get into it, but this an observation. Like when I was younger, and I was listening to rock and hard rock and maybe progressive rock and all this stuff. The lyrics were important if I really dug the band. Like once in a while, Rush was an example. I would dive into the lyrics. I didn't understand a lot of what I was reading, but essentially, a lot of other rock was so superficial to me. I just loved the music.
Exactly, it was the music. Yes,
that's where I got to it. That's what I enjoyed about it, and I can't be unique in that. Right? I would imagine most people used to just like music for the music.
Yeah, the only time I remember getting the lyric cards, right, like in CDs or cassettes, right. 1 out of 50 songs, like I would be curious what they were saying, like the lyrics of the song. You would think you would know what they were saying. You'd mimic the words, and you were always wrong. But I didn't care about the words. I cared about how the words sounded with the music, not what the actual words said, not what the song meant necessarily.
Okay, so the imagery of where it was filmed, a courthouse, I think, and maybe the actual location of that particular courthouse, is what's in contention. Is that why people are pissed off?
That's again. That's part.
I'm trying to understand it.
That was part of it. The images. They're saying that it was, it was a racially charged song because there were pictures of there was riots and all this stuff that went on, and because I think the one thing I read was, yes, that courthouse, there were lynchings in front of that courthouse, like in the 1800s.
Okay.
And the guy, it was a black guy that was talking about it, and he was really intelligent the way he was talking about it. He's like, we could go to every courthouse in the South and say the exact same thing. Like, it is not that someone went and picked that courthouse. It's literally, that's what happened in those days. Like you could go back to the 1700s and people were shot with muskets. Like, how far back are we going to go? Like, we're just looking for something to be offended by. Like, that's what true. They're just looking for something
more than ever. And I would challenge parents. Let's say parents out there right now who maybe because of their political beliefs or their philosophy beliefs or whatever your reasonings, but if you're really charged up about this and you really believe that this is an attack on a group of Americans, if you believe that, and you're quote unquote offended by the lyrics of this song, yet on your playlist in your car, you have a song, I think it's called Wet Ass Pussy. Is that it? By a rapper. What's her name? Her name escapes me at the moment, but I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. So the lyrics. So I printed out the lyrics of this song right before this show because I just literally was aware of it, but I never heard it or even. And if you're okay with those lyrics, if that doesn't offend your sensibilities,
Yeah.
especially if you got kids,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes. Yes.
if you got kids,
Yeah.
but you're offended by a theoretical idea within this other video, I'm sorry, you know, I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I just think maybe you should take a deep breath and do some comparison about what is acceptable to you and what is not, and just see, do you have any intentional bias in there? I'm not saying you do. I'm just asking you, may want to take a little look and just see. I can't really say that we're advancing society by a person rapping and saying wet ass pussy 100 times in a 3.5-minute song. Just me. I think there's got to be more sophisticated ways of advancing society. But again, people like what they like. So be it. I listen to some pretty crazy rock shit. I get it. No problem. I mean, my band's 70 years old and they're wearing spandex and makeup. I get it. It's weird. I get it. My point is, we are so intentionally looking to be offended by things.
Right.
And consequently doing our own version of virtue signaling because we think our ego needs it. We really should take a look in the mirror.
Yeah.
It's going to be anything. Next week, it's going to be a soup can. They're going to look at a soup can and decide a soup can has got racial tendencies or gender. Someone will be gender aggrieved by it or whatever. We will be offended by a soup can next week, right? A 72 Pinto the next week,
right?
It's got to fucking stop.
Well, we've got to get back to a point where we can enjoy music for music. We can enjoy comedy for comedy, and not look. And guess what? If you're offended by something, don't listen to it. If you're offended by a song or offended by a comedian, no one is holding you in a room and blaring it in your ears. Just don't listen to it. Move on. Like, again, this is my problem. Like, not everybody's going to agree to the same things. Right? We're not all going to agree that this is funny, this isn't funny. Right? If you think something's funny, I don't, I'm just like, I'm not going to watch it. If you think something's not offensive and I do, I'm not going to watch it. Like, you have the choice. Like,
isn't that what America's about?
Correct. But the problem is we want everybody to feel we're making this choice because of this. Not because it's just we don't enjoy the song or we don't think the comedian's funny. We want people to know we're doing it because we're standing for a cause. It's like, no, like, just move on. Like, funny
What's
is funny.
What's the cause? I don't think most people can articulate why they take the causes, the stands for the causes that they say that they do.
Correct.
And we can unwind that in another discussion. That's just the fact that, quite frankly, I don't think most of the population even knows what their personal philosophy is. They say they believe in things, but do you really? Have you really put some thought into it? Because I think if we have, or if we would do that as a society, we'd be less caustic with each other.
Well, yeah, we believe what we think is cool at the time to believe. That's what a majority of people do. Right? Like,
so again, you're saying it's a fad?
Yeah.
I hope.
Well, and again,
I hope.
My whole thing is when the whole Ukraine war started and everybody had changed their profile picture to, support Ukraine, which is great. Okay, but can you even point on a map where Ukraine is? Like, that's my thing. Like, I don't want to see war happen. I don't want to see people die senselessly, right? But I'm not going to change my profile picture to feign some level of support for a country that I didn't think about at all prior to this war. Not one time in my life have I thought about Ukraine and the people of Ukraine. I'm sorry, that's just me. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, we just need to be more honest with ourselves.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think most people, I believe this in my heart of hearts, most people wake up and although they might not agree with something or they see things that don't make sense, I think most people will defer to being quiet about things, not causing consternation and not causing other people harm. I think that's what most people, although I will tell you, a lot of those people that are choosing to not engage because they don't want to cause anyone.
Yeah.
If you ask them, do you really understand what the hell's going on? They're probably going to say no. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
we are in a society where we are demanding other people capitulate to our wants and our wishes and our fairy tales.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm not the arbiter that decides what's a legitimate want and a fairy tale. Everybody has to do that on their own.
Agreed.
Whim, I should say. When you tell another human being that they have to identify you a certain way, fine. Let me know so I know, and I will call you any fucking thing you want.
Yeah.
If it makes you happy, I'm on board because I
Yes.
don't want to hurt anybody.
Correct. Yes.
But you can't expect me to know. Telepathy, I don't think it's been proven yet, although there's some great conspiracies about that. I don't think it's actually a thing. You can't buy a pill and get those skills, right? I don't know.
No, you definitely can't.
So if I misgender you, I can assure you it's an accident.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Yes.
If you come at me because of that, now all bets are off. And I'm no different than probably most rational people in the country, right? You know, there are a lot of illogical things out there, but if tomorrow I decide that, you know, I'm going to identify as this office chair right here.
I love it.
This is me.
I love
Say
it.
this, friends. This is me. That's who's going to show up next week. Just this office chair, right?
Yeah.
And
Office chair project.
Is it ridiculous? Yeah, that whole statement's ridiculous. And some are going to say, "Oh, you're being hurtful." No, I'm not. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm trying to understand
Yes.
how that's any different than you declaring that you're now something else. It's all equal footing.
Correct.
And it should be legitimate. If I choose to be this office chair next week, why is that not legitimate if everything else that whims that people want to do on a whim, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to define myself as this, I'm not this anymore, now I'm this. If we in society are think that all that's okay, and guess what? Me being an office chair, I think is just, as a matter of fact, it's very harmless. I can't imagine it's hurting anybody.
Yeah.
Why can't I do that?
Well, a million reasons, right? But I don't know. So here's my point. Like where I get hung up is, so we have people that can, you know, biological males can identify as females, compete in women's sports, right? Which is dangerous, right? We let it happen, right? So why can't I identify as a medical professional and perform surgery on someone? They'll say, oh, because that's dangerous. Okay, you're going to say it's dangerous, and I'm not licensed. Okay, well, this person is dangerous to put a biological male that's 200 pounds competing in a sport with biological females that are half their size. Like, where do we draw the lines? Like, we've gotten to a point of ridiculousness. Like, I agree. Like, if you have a gender identity, that's your I support that. Whatever, I'll call you. I'll identify you. Whatever you feel.
Of course,
you know. I'm just.
We
saying,
don't have to understand.
Where do we draw the line when it comes to what is and is not actually the truth or actually harmful? Right? We can't. Like, we got to draw the line somewhere. They're saying, well, you know, they can compete, even though it's dangerous. But then I can't practice medicine, even though I identify as a doctor, because it's dangerous. Like, where's the line drawn? Like, how do we start figuring this stuff out? Like, I saw an interview of someone that they were interviewing people in the street, and they like, you know, can I identify as a different race? The one was like, well, no, that's genetic. And he looked at her and he's like, but you're telling me sex isn't genetic. And she's like, well, that's not what I'm saying. And she was caught up and she didn't know how to answer.
Of course.
Her natural instinct was no, that because this person wanted to identify as a different race. And she was like virtue signaling, like, no, you can't do that. That's appropriation. That's in the genetic thing. You can identify as something you're genetically not. Meanwhile, he flipped it right back at her. Well, you're saying you identify as a male. Isn't that genetic? And she had no idea what to say. She was caught right in that corner.
Well, that is symptomatic to a lot of just bizarreness that's out there now.
And again, like, that's the problem. It's like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
And again, you know, I'll play the game. If I need to, whatever you say is how you identify.
Sure.
As long as I know,
Yes.
we can have drink. We can have lunch. We can do business together.
Exactly.
We can hang out.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a problem.
No,
but
I
if
have
you
no
accost me for not knowing what your identity is,
Correct.
I'm not a mind reader. And I think, and the reason I bring that up is that's happening a lot. I hear it from a lot of people who are getting accosted by people who have changed their gender publicly or have a more inclusionary gender. That's a thing. Okay. But if you don't tell other people,
Yeah, this comes back to, I think we discussed this either last week or the week before, about the different generations and the way they see the world, right? Like, studies have been shown that Generation X, right? We can navigate and communicate up, down, and sideways. Like, we've known how to talk to different levels of people. The millennials and generations down have, their skill set is to communicate downward, right? So it's very egocentric. So if you don't believe in their perspective, you are offensive. They don't know how to communicate otherwise. And it's not, that's just how they were brought up, right? And that's where I think a lot of the problem is coming in, because you're seeing, it's not the Generation X are accosting people. Like, if a Generation X person identifies as something different, right? So say I'm a biological male, but I identify as a female. Most people in our generation, if you misgender me, I understand, mistake, no worries. We had that discussion. It moves on.
Right.
It's the younger generations where it's just like, fuck you. Like, how do you not know this? It's very only from their lens. They can't see it from any other lens. And so it gets caught up in their head. And that's why there's all this accosting. I guarantee if you look statistically, the people that accost are the younger generations accosting the older, and not vice versa.
yeah.
Because it's a perspective thing. Like, they only look at things through their lens. They cannot, detach from that lens and look at it from a different
How did
perspective.
that happen?
I think just the way they brought up with technology and the way everything was right there in front of them. And the helicopter parents, like our generation, we fucked them up everybody's a winner. Like, you're all, everybody wins. You all get a trophy for being here. Like, that's the problem. So we validated all of their perceptions.
Yes.
And not saying that's not how the world works. Like, second place is the first loser. I'm sorry. That's what it is. Like, you didn't win. You were the first loser. Okay. Apparently the generation, the younger generation was like, everybody got the trophy. You're all winners. You're winners for showing up. That's not how life works.
No, it doesn't prepare. Yeah. It doesn't prepare anyone for life and the heartache.
No, it does not at all.
And because life has heartache. That's a part of it. And it's
life is hard in general.
So I want to continue our conversation on certainty
Okay.
in society.
Are you certain you want to do this?
I am certain. I'm certain that we want to continue our conversation on certainty. We've talked about it in prior weeks. We're already in a caustic society as it is. Get it? Although I will tell you, I always have hope, because when I'm out and about doing my thing, 98% of the time that I meet strangers, my interactions with them are really good.
Yeah.
Sometimes they might be indifferent and I don't get any kind of positivity back, but I don't view that as negative. That's just reality.
Exactly. Yes.
It's very rare when I get a caustic response back. Now, you remember those.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're rare,
Yes.
And they're kind of like nasty. But the certainty I'm talking about is all these things that for generations Americans have kind of looked at in society as being a truth.
Okay.
For better or worse.
Okay.
The biggest one to talk about is the one that's coming up here very soon, which we all might want to hold on tightly because it's going to get crazy, is our next presidential election.
Yeah.
I think most of us grew up assuming that, there's an election and we do it and there's a winner and then the loser gives a concession speech and we just get on with it, right?
Yeah.
And we accept that the answer of the election, the results were final, and there must be a truth in there. And from that truth, other things can build. It's a foundational truth, right? You can say religion is, you can say the family structure is a foundational truth. Law and order was a foundational truth traditionally.
Okay.
There are certain tenets in society, which of course there's always exceptions.
Yes.
But generally speaking, there were things you could hang your hats on, and from those truths, you can kind of build a society.
Okay.
You find other little truths, and you build from that. In 2023, I think a lot of citizens believe that some of these bedrock truths are up for debate, or are being questioned, or are no longer automatic truths. And I think that is dangerous.
Okay.
And we haven't seen it like we're going to see it soon.
Okay.
Now, am I all wet? Is there any validity in your eyes to any of that?
No, I think certainty has well, I think one, the media has made people uncertain, right? Because there's more information coming at us now than ever,
Right,
right?
the uncertainty game, right?
Yeah, I mean they're in the uncertainty game, right? They can take two media outlets on opposing viewpoints, can take the exact same set of facts and can completely fuck you up in the head. Like the example I gave you earlier, I said I could say your shirt is blue or your shirt is not red. Same facts, but they will be argued two different ways. Like to me, it's like it doesn't matter what the color of the shirt is, it's what color the shirt isn't. So it's like, what is the certainty in it? Should I be more concerned about the color of your shirt or the color that it's not? Right? So is red more important or is blue more important? And this is what the media does. So then we start questioning everything, right? The fact is your shirt is blue. That's the only fact that matters. But when you take an argument and you make it like that, it's not red. Well, am I like, well, is red the more important color? Like, what is the certainty? Like, what matters more? So it really screws with people's heads because no one is giving just facts, right? It's spin. It's
spin.
It's spin.
It's
so
spin.
So it basically it takes a level of certainty. The fact that there was a new it was it months ago where they were talking about how math is racist. It's like math is math. Like what the fuck? Like there are certain fundamental things like that we have to just accept as certain. Math is a certain science, right? There's a definitive answer to math.
It's a language, is what it is.
Correct. The problem is when you have the media that will take anything and spin it on its head and turn it around and twist it up, it's hard for the average human being to believe in certainty because it takes a level of thinking that is beyond the surface level. It takes a deep sense of thought and wisdom and knowledge to decipher certain from uncertain in today's world, in my opinion.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. I'm a lawyer. It's exhausting for me. Like my head hurts most fucking days. Not because of just the shit I do on a day-to-day basis, but just trying to keep all the other stuff out, using my brain to block out the uncertainty. Because I know what's certain in my life. I know what's certain in the things I'm working on. I have to expend mental energy to shield myself and shelter myself from the uncertainty trying to be created inside of me. Like it's crazy. Like the amount of mental energy it takes in today's world because there's so much information constantly coming at us at such a rapid speed. And if you're not I don't want to say sophisticated is the wrong word, but if you're not cognizant enough to know when to discern it, your brain will melt. And it's caused people to say everything's uncertain now. They don't believe in anything anymore.
Well, that's where I'm going.
Yes.
When, decades prior, when you heard the word conspiracy,
Yeah.
you thought of some crazy, I mean, sorry to be sexist, but I would think of some crazy dude with frizzy hair living on the corner, in this old dilapidated house who believes like that the microwaves coming in from the electric poles are going to kill him.
Yeah.
Because that word conspiracy gave you the vision of an outlier, an outsider, someone on the fringe, right? Mm-hmm. We use the concept conspiracy, the term, we throw it around now daily like it's the word the.
Yeah. Yes. Because we use conspiracy now to label things that don't align with what we believe.
Bingo.
That's what it is. That's
Bingo.
Exactly what it is.
Bingo.
If it doesn't align with my belief, it's conspiracy.
Well,
or just a different viewpoint.
Unwind it even further. You can broaden that out to the idea of, are we ever able to admit that we are wrong?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think we should be able to. I thought the Earth was round for so long. Now it's. But again,
the Earth is round.
But here's the thing. I will give you an example of how even me, who I think for a living, can become uncertain. Like I've went down rabbit holes, and I'm like, some of this shit makes sense to me. It's like when I start listening to people, and it's people spin on things, but I don't know enough about the subject matter, and that kind of plays into my point, right? If you don't know enough about a subject matter, it's so uncertain. Like I don't know enough about the Earth and space and how all that shit works because that's not my subject matter expertise, right? I'm a lawyer. I'm a business person. So when I hear people articulate something very well, I'm like, fuck, the Earth is flat as fuck. Like what? Like But this is what I'm saying.
That's all it takes with you?
But no, but I'm using it as an example because this is what happens, right? If like the whole like Constitution, right? If people don't understand the Constitution and why it was written, they take what is told and yeah, that's it. That's what it's meant for. It's like no. Like understand the subject matter.
We don't want to.
Well, that's exactly right.
And I think it's because there's something else around the corner that might be more interesting.
Yeah.
And whereas when life was slower, pre-96, 95, when we would like learn things intentionally by reading a book or reading a magazine article or having a conversation, maybe once in a while watching the news, but for the most part, things coming at you slower. I don't think that we want to do the required investigation before we make up our mind that something is a certain way. And I think that our default mechanism generally is not to be humble enough to say, I really don't know. Or, wow, I was thinking that, but I had that wrong.
Yeah.
That was part of everyday life for most people decades ago.
Yeah.
You make the mistake. Maybe you have to apologize to someone. Maybe you apologize to him and you move forward.
You want to know why?
I'll
tell you exactly why. Because right now, people put their opinions out there on a large scale through social media. So to retract that opinion,
married to it.
So they're married to it, and to retract that opinion and to admit you are wrong has a larger impact. Right? Before social media, if I had a position, only my close circle knew about it, right? So it was easy for me to be like, yeah, I was wrong. 3 or 4 people.
Right.
Okay. Now it's like, if I'm blasting on social media, this is my opinion, then I'm disproven. I'm not going to look like a fool to all these hundreds of people that follow me on social media. This is how people think. I truly believe that. They've created a wider audience for themselves, be it a few hundred people or tens of people. But in their mind, it's like they cannot go back and admit they were wrong because it has a larger impact now.
How about this for a real quick and dirty solution? Why don't we share our beliefs and opinions and ideas, but also follow it up or incorporate it in a question?
Great.
State, that shows that you don't assume that you know things for certainty.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you have a layman's knowledge of things. I think most of us have a lay person's knowledge of most things.
Correct. Yes.
So if you have an idea and it sounds right to you, if you go at it on social media as if you are the telltale authority of this, and this is this, yeah, you're right. It's a dangerous thing to do, number one. But number two, you kind of box yourself in the corner, and that little dirty thing called an ego creeps up and doesn't permit you to be humble enough to backtrack it.
Exactly.
But if you ask more questions in your posts and encourage more people to talk, ask for thoughts and opinions. This is what I believe. What do you think about this?
Yeah.
People are definitely willing to give you their opinions.
Yeah. Be inquisitive.
100%. Because you may realize after sharing ideas or receiving ideas that you're all fucking wet and you're wrong. But it's easier at that point because you're just inquiring. You're not being married to it.
Exactly. It's exactly
right.
It's
a little change. Just a little change.
A little change that causes a big shift. I mean,
certainly
it's an impactful shift because, again, that's where people get caught up, right? They don't want, they get married to a position too soon. They don't do the fundamental due diligence of the position to understand whether it has validity or not. Like, that's how I look at it, right? And it's unfortunate because, there's so many things to learn out there. Like, all I know, the older I get, the more I know I don't know. Like, that's, as I've gotten older, like when you're younger, you think you kind of know everything. I'm 45 years old. I'm like, there's so much shit I have no clue about. And the older I get, I realize there's even more and more stuff I have no idea about. So I'm constantly inquiring, trying to gain knowledge. And that's why, like, a year ago, I didn't fucking believe in UFOs. Now I'm like, well, maybe there are. I mean, I don't know.
You hear that, James?
Because here's why. Because I inquired, right? I was curious. Like, curiosity is a beautiful thing. If you just play into your curiosity about life in the world, it's really interesting what you can find out.
100%. And we also assume that we know things like, and people do make this comment. I'm sure it's a humble comment. Well, I don't know about things deeply. I know some things, but not a lot.
Yeah.
What about the idea of you're just aware of a lot of things?
Yeah.
But you really might not know much, if anything. And that's just a humble statement to make, but that more accurately represents this crazy internet social media world we're in, where we're being barraged. I mean, you see something and you read something that makes sense in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
You don't know that subject.
Right. Oh, exactly.
You know of it.
You're
but
aware of it.
You're aware of it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's more of a humble way of discussing things and showing others that you're aware, but I don't really know.
But just think about that statement. That's a nuance of language that takes a second level sophistication of thinking. Knowing and being
shouldn't.
like, but it does. But just think. I mean, just be honest. Like, just be honest with yourself. Like, most people, when they say "I know of it," that means they're aware of it. Like, that's what they're trying to
So it's
say.
semantics then.
It's a semantics thing, because saying I'm aware of something has a different meaning to most people, right? You and I understand what we're trying to say, right? Being aware means I've taken in the information. I haven't investigated to whether it's true or false. I'm aware that the door's there. I don't know if it's open, or I don't know if it's locked or not locked. I just know it's there, right? People would say, I know there's a door there. They're not looking at the fundamental, what is the actual truth. To me, I'm saying the door's there. I'm not sure whether it's locked or not, because that's what we're trying to figure out. Can I get in or out of this room, right? So I want to know whether the door is locked or not. So I'm saying, I know the door. I'm aware the door's there. I don't know enough whether I can get in or out of this room. Most people are saying, I know there's a door that I can get out of the room. Can you? What if it's locked? Like, people aren't looking at that second level of
I think you're right.
Of facts.
Well, they go at it on the internet like there's a special award going to be given to them to prove how much they know.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Or convey to others how much they know.
Yes, correct.
And in reality, for the most part, what you see out there is all this superficial bullshit. Because the bottom line is, if you're getting all of your news from Network A, and you think you've dived in for a couple hours and really researched something through this Network A, you still don't know it. The reality is, you know one side of an equation.
Correct. Yes.
I mean, not just politically, anything.
Yeah.
Because,
exactly. Yes.
You know, if you go to multiple sources and you do some, but again, this takes a lot of time, and we're not willing to do that. We like to scroll.
Or just think, thinking, asking yourself, does this make sense? Based upon my prior experiences in life, like, take the president, for instance, right? Take politics aside. Based upon what you know and what I know as men in our 40s and 50s and the experiences we've had in our life, I can look at that man and say he is not physically well. It's not because I'm a Republican or a Democrat. It's because I've experienced through life what people look like when they age and the condition they're in when they're deteriorating. My prior knowledge and the perceptions I've built up over time brings me to that conclusion.
Yes.
I've thought through that. Not because CNN or Fox told me this man's falling apart. It's what I can see based upon my experiences. People need to do more of that and ask themselves, take all this shit aside and say, does this make sense based upon my sensibilities I've developed over my life? That's a lot easier way to actually solve problems and to actually think through things and to find some level of certainty in life.
So weighing against that is the ease of finding like-minded people, the comfort of finding like-minded people who are also surface level knowledgeable on all these things, just as you are, right?
Yeah.
Because you've watched Tucker or you've watched Rachel Maddow or whatever, you know, you watch those shows, so you know something for certain. I mean, we got to be smarter than that. we got to be smarter than that.
Yeah, I mean, the aliens are coming to take us all out. But no, you're right. Like, that's the problem. But we're not. Right? We're not sophisticated thinkers anymore.
Certainty. Okay, I'm 57, so growing up in this crazy world, up until about 4 or 5 years ago, I thought if you walked into a retail store and you took something that didn't belong to you, that was a crime. You had a chance of being fingerprinted. I don't know if you go to big time jail, but you might.
Yeah.
I mean, ruin your life, ruin your career, be embarrassed.
Yes.
But also, you just know it's the wrong thing to do.
Correct.
Up until about 5 years ago, I just assumed if someone talked to me about shoplifting, that was a crime and that was a bad thing.
Yeah.
And then I'd move on mentally.
Yeah.
Now I look at shoplifting and I still feel that it's a bad thing. I still believe it should be a crime. Nothing has changed in terms of my feeling about it. But as I look at how we respond to it in society, it doesn't seem to be that big of a deal anymore. So that certainty that it's a crime,
Yeah.
not just with me,
Yeah.
with probably
Yeah.
millions of people,
Yeah.
that certainty begins to be eroded. And thus, we end up with more of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what I can't, that's the one thing I cannot wrap my brain around. Like, it's theft. It's pretty fucking clear in the crimes codes of every state what theft is. The unlawful taking of property. Walking into a store and taking shit you didn't pay for is theft. Like, when did that not become a crime? Like, when did it become offensive to arrest somebody that's shoplifting? Like, don't break the fucking law. It's pretty fucking, you don't want to get arrested? Don't break the law. You don't want to go to jail? Don't break the law. Like, I would expect if I went into a store and walked out with something, I should be arrested. That's a crime. I know what the crime is. I committed it. Arrest me. Like, what the fuck? The fact that we even have to have this discussion blows my mind that we're talking about whether this is a crime or not. It is a crime. Like, how are we here?
So, yes. So when you have people of prominence, educated people, people with degrees, fancy degrees from big schools, who have the other opinion that for whatever their justification is, that should no longer be a crime. It's not that big of a deal. What I'm saying to you is, it's those types of discussions,
Right.
those insane discussions that
Right.
seem to be real prevalent the last 5-7 years.
Right.
That kind of insanity is doing damage to the bedrock certainties that society was built on.
Right. Right. Why isn't that a crime?
Oh, I'm sure you will find.
Or are all these people just going in and saying, I
scholars
identify as a
that'll tell you.
non-criminal. I identify as a non-criminal. You can't arrest me. Like, I feel like that's where we are in this life. Like, that's like people just walking like, I'm identifying as a non-criminal. I identified that I paid for this. You can't arrest me. Like, this is where we are. Like, this making a joke of it, but this is literally where we are. The fact that we're having a discussion whether shoplifting is a fucking crime. Are you kidding me?
I've really done some. It doesn't mean anything in a big picture, but for me personally, I've done a lot of reflecting and reading on this gender issue. I want to make sure that I'm coming at it from a position of kindness, because I do not in any way, shape, or form want to hurt somebody, because I'm not about hurting feelings. I'm just not.
Same here.
But I have certain feelings about it, especially when it comes to men, biological men, and women's sports. Because of, like you have mentioned many times on our conversations, there's a danger there.
Yes.
You're raising young girls.
Yes.
I just raised girls, and I think back on that. How would I feel?
Yeah.
How would my sensibilities, and my protective nature of my daughters, how would I feel if they were competing in a physical sport or even a non-physical sport, just competitively, with a biological male?
Right.
And I cannot get there. It doesn't mean that I don't care what you identify as. I will and I will address you as you wish. But there are some things some bedrock foundations in my belief structure that I can't close an eye and give a wink to biology.
Correct.
I can't do that. Right. So when you ask me to twist those things around in my head, I can't get there. Now, if that under this new world makes me a bad person, then I guess I'm just a bad person, because I am not going to change what's illogical to me.
No, I
can't do it.
I can't agree to the sports thing. Like I was thinking the other day about like softball or baseball, right? Like when I was growing up, there was a bunch of us, like guys and girls, that would play. We would go to the ball fields and play baseball together, right? And we would pick teams, and we'd have a mix of girls and guys, but we put the females played certain positions because it was a danger. It was a danger for a female to play third base. If I turn on a ball and hit it hard, they could get their head taken off. That's just a fundamental physical difference. Like my girlfriend growing up, phenomenal athlete, I could hit a ball 100 feet farther than her, just because physically we're different, right? So what happens?
What's wrong with admitting that?
Right, exactly. Like they can do things way better than we can. But my point is, like, where do we draw the line? Like, what happens when biological males start playing college softball, female softball? They will kill people. Like, you can see a fundamental difference between a male and a female when they hit a ball, right? Like, think about that. Like, I've watched my daughter play softball. I watch girls softball.
What about rugby? What about other contact or semi-contact
Taekwondo?
sports?
Like, my daughter takes Taekwondo. Like, if she got into a tournament and was competing against a biological male, I would take her out of the tournament. I mean, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt.
So the logical solution to the problem, which I would think would be a great solution to make everybody happy, is create it different. So
Correct.
you have
That's
a
what it
male,
should be. Yes.
you have a trans league, a men's league, and
correct.
a women's league.
Yep.
I don't know what the problem would be there. I mean, I guess theoretically you could have people jumping between them all, but
You don't see females transitioning to males keep competing in men's sports. Name one biological female who has transitioned competing in men's sports. There's not one. There are a shit ton of biological males transition to
because
females.
it's more manipulable.
Correct. That's what it is. Like, there was a woman in South Korea, I think, if I remember correctly, I think it was a biological male competing in cycling as a female, and they said, I'm not competing. Like, it's not fair. Like, they pulled themselves out of a race. Said, it is not fair. Like, I'm not going to do this. Like, it's not fair. It was like a championship race. The biological male who identifies as a female pulled themselves out because they recognized, they were trying to make a stand, this isn't right.
Yeah.
Like, I will come in this race and destroy everybody. I'm not going to do that. It's not fair.
And the thing that to cap it off here, the thing that really just bothers me where we are in society now is when we have conversations like this. Oftentimes, if you're I don't know, you're pro-trans rights, which I think most people are pro-trans, right? But if you're militant, let's say those that are militant about it,
Sure.
when we have conversations like this to explain positions, they want to shut down that speech. They want to condemn that speech. They want to label what I would say as being like, egregious to them
or offensive.
And my God, I'm coming at it as with all the humility I possibly can.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to go to the umpteenth degree to make people comfortable.
Yes.
But I can't read minds, and I can't change my views on biology, and I just can't.
Right.
So if that's how it is, I would think that I'm willing to respect your viewpoint on your identity. Can you respect my viewpoint on these things?
That's all it should be. It
That's
should
all
be
I'm
as
asking.
simple as that.
But if you label me as like this bad person, then I won't do anything. But I will tell you, plenty of people, if you label them, they will start labeling you, and then we have this
that's
caustic
where we are.
bullshit.
That's where we are. That's where the problems are. Where if we were just more tolerant with different viewpoints, this world would be a lot better place. Because it comes down to that, right? If I don't have to believe what you believe, just don't label me as being offensive because I don't believe what you believe. We're allowed to have different viewpoints. That's okay. I respect you. You respect me. We can coexist peacefully and in harmony.
Right.
But it's when I don't believe in what you believe, and now I'm the villain. Who's saying your view is the only view, and your view is the morally right view? You are saying that. No one else. That is what you are saying. And the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Like, we should just be more tolerant.
Yeah, and I will say that, the problem I have with movements, and I've had this my entire life, the problem I have with most movements is that invariably there is a portion of the movement which goes militant.
Yeah.
Militant verbally and sadly sometimes militant physically.
Oh, yeah.
And that little wing of the movement, just like the wings of the political parties on a broader scale, do the damage.
Yeah.
They do the damage to the rest of the people in the movement. And it gives those opposed to the movement fuel to point to them and say, look at those crazy fuckers out there burning things down, hurting other people.
That's exactly right.
I mean, and invariably, that's what I have always saw, and that goes back decades since I was little. And that's why protesting, why I know why we need it, and we need to protect the right of it. Me personally, I've never seen a lot good in my lifetime come from it.
Right.
Because invariably the militants of any group seem to want to damage things.
20% make it terrible for the other 80% of us. That's how I look at it. It's the loudest 20% are the ones that make the country the way it is for the 80% of us who really want to get along.
Well, there's so many Democrats in the middle, Republicans in the middle, so many people that are looking at each other suspiciously but really believe a lot of the same damn things.
Exactly right.
Because we're being hijacked
Yes.
by that. I even say it's 10% or less of the really
Yeah.
radical
Yeah, you're
of
right.
both sides.
Mhm.
And we're just not brave enough
Right.
to hear those voices and push back on them.
Completely agree, man. That's the
We're not
problem.
brave enough.
We need to get brave.
Well, we need to get brave pretty soon because
Yeah.
we have a very big election coming. And I want whoever wins this election there should be a level of certainty amongst the entire or a large majority of our population that the winner's results are accurate and right and genuine.
Yes.
That's what I hope
Yes.
to see.
Same here. That's all we want.
I don't
Right.
think it's going to happen, but I would want that because I think if that could happen, some kind of unity in regards to believing, okay, it was a legitimate circumstance. This is our leader for better or worse.
Yeah.
Let's just move forward. Maybe from there, other things could kind of set themselves right. But we need this one moment in time, some event in time, hopefully a positive moment that can maybe change the course and have us start interacting with each other better. But I don't know what it is.
The biggest fear I have is the way I view the political system now is it is about self-preservation. It's let's create discord in society so we remain in power. Because if they backed up a little bit, the rest would be like, we kind of all want the same things. What do we need these fools for? Like they have to keep us somewhat divided in fighting with one another so we can look to them to solve the problem. When in reality, if you take politics out of it and you put a bunch of people in a room, we just start talking about issues and no political agendas or labels, majority of people in that room be like, yeah, makes sense. Like I would want that too. We'd all get along, but they create this discord within the society.
Yeah, just keep us fighting with each other.
That's it, man.
No damn reason. We look at each other and we ask each other, what are we fighting about? And we honestly sometimes can't.
We don't even know.
articulate it.
We don't even know, dude.
All right, until next week.
Yes.
To everyone out there, I guess I'm looking this direction.
That's always this.
All right.
Just so used to looking
Thanks,
that way.
folks. We appreciate it, and we do appreciate the feedback.
Yes.
And by all means, you got any questions as to why we're doing this crazy stuff or
Yeah.
any suggestions, let us know.
Definitely.
Have a great week.